Hello and good morning. Welcome to a new week of Faith Lift Messages. And this week we're looking at the book of Mark. We're going to be doing each of the Gospels over the next couple of weeks. And so last week we were in Matthew. But the question you may be asking now, why are there four Gospels? Well, the Greek word for gospel is euangelion, which means good news or reward for bringing good news. It was normally the word used when there was a pronouncement of a prince or the winning of a battle. Have you heard the gospel? You see, the gospel speaks to good news. And all of the gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John, aim to bring the good news and the story of Jesus Christ to life. None of them claim to be complete in themselves. And we see this in John, which we'll cover when we look at his gospel. It's kind of like the best way to explain it is three artists or four artists looking at a mountain range, how they pick up on the different colors, highlights, and features and bring that to light in their painting. Now, Matthew, Mark, and Luke are known as the Synoptic Gospels. And they are grouped together, almost like brother Gospels. They look at the teaching of Jesus and the ministry of Jesus when he's in Galilee. They record his miracles and his parables, whereas John is different. He looks at the ministry of Jesus in Judea and Jerusalem itself. He highlights the more memorable events and seems to include a lot of discussions and speeches. Now, just the book that we're going to be looking at this week, and today is just a bit of a background, we're going to be looking at Mark, and it's the shortest book. It can be read, if you sat down and read it, you could read it in 2.5 hours quite easily. And some would argue that it was written to be read out in a single sitting, like in a synagogue. It's also, by some scholars, presumed to be the oldest gospel. You see, 90% of Mark, the book of Mark, and how it's written is found in the book of Matthew. And 53% of the words and the way it's written of Mark is found in the book of Luke. And so there's this theory that the book of Mark was actually presumed to be copied by Matthew and Luke when they wrote their Gospels. And this brings us into the thing which you may have heard me say a couple times, the Synoptic Gospels. Matthew, Mark, and Luke are known as the Synoptic Gospels. And the Synoptic Gospels just really is the question is, who copied who? Who actually brought in? Who was the original writer? Who brought in the things and the different views? And so we'll be discussing that a little bit at a later time. Where did they get their sources from? And as you can see, it starts to come up with Mark being the shortest, but yet most of Mark is found in the book of Matthew, and 50% of it is found in the book of Luke. Now, just a little bit about Mark as we get into it this week. We see that it was almost written for a non-Jewish audience, presumed to be a Roman audience and written in Rome, and that's for a number of reasons. We see that Mark uses several Latin words in his writing, which a Roman audience would have understood. We also see that he lacks quotes from the Old Testament, where with Matthew it was full of Old Testament quotes and prophecies. But here in Mark's Gospel, it almost lacks many of those quotes. He also seems to explain specific Jewish customs to the audience that he's writing, almost as if they didn't understand some of the customs of the Jewish nation. So last week we looked at Matthew, which spoke of a promised Messiah, and that Jesus is the fulfillment of that. This week we look at Mark. And the main emphasis here in the writing of Mark is that Jesus is the King to whom we must yield. And so I'm really excited as we go into the book this week and trust you'll join us over the next few days. See you tomorrow.